Hey everybody. Oh man, I've been going for a long time, past couple months really, and I'm exhausted, but I've still been making it out and getting some okay train videos. Not as cool as I'd want them to be, but yeah, I just felt kind of compelled to tell a couple shoestring stories tonight. I mean, everybody seems to love them. I'm always torn on talking about it, but I know everybody likes it because we all miss them. But yeah, I don't know. I just I kind of get sad about when I really start thinking about them. And in fact, today I was thinking about how he passed away, and I really don't know. I know people in my other videos have asked, you know, what happened, and I really don't know. I don't think his family knows. I think they're maybe or maybe not releasing an autopsy results, and they said 60 to 90 days, which I'm not sure if his family's making that available to the public or not, and whatever they choose to do with that, that's cool. I mean, to me, I don't know if it even really matters how he passed away, because I don't like to think about that. I like to think about him and how he lived, which was pretty awesome for all of us people stuck in an office and stuck in our lives. And he represented freedom, I think, to a lot of people. And I really do believe that's what everybody loved about him, is he was a free spirit. And yeah, I don't like thinking about what happened at the end. It just bugs me. I mean, I have my own thoughts about it, but maybe I'll talk about this one day, but I don't think right now's appropriate or the time. But anyways, I wrote down a couple funny stories about him, but I don't know if I'm even going to talk about those. I'm just going to, whatever pops into my brain here for the next like 5 or 10 minutes, I'll talk about that. And oh, this did pop into my brain today. The Northern Lights event that happened last weekend, I think it was like a solar flare or something. I think I told you guys Shoestring was a huge like space nerd, which was pretty cool because I'm all into that. And we talked about I think it's the Carrington event or Cardington event, but it was a huge solar flare that happened probably like 100 years ago, I think. I don't know any of the details, but I do know a little bit about it. I've read about it and stuff. And we were talking one night, like texting, I think, and he was like, what do you think would happen if that happened now? And I'm like, well, I work for the power company and it wouldn't be good. And just stupid stuff like that is what I miss the most about him. What else is popping into my brain about him tonight? Yeah, I'll save that for another video, but he signed, like, put his Hobo moniker on, like, my bucket, and I have, like, a battery pack. He tagged up on I have one of his autograph things, and I think I have another one somewhere that he did. And it's just funny because people in the comments are like, I bet you wouldn't sell that for $1 million now. And I'm like, I don't know that I would. I mean, everything's for sale at a price, but it just, the sentimental value of all that stuff that he tagged for me. I was going to have him tag the train cart, one of the Fairmont train carts. And I should have had him do it. I don't know what I was thinking when I had him in the back shed there, and I was giving him the rundown of the A4. I should have made him take his paint marker and just sign it right on the front part of it or something. I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't even, see, that's the thing, is I never thought about that kind of stuff, because I really kind of thought he'd be around forever. And I told him one time, and I kind of meant it, and I sort of still believe it. I said, you know, if there's a nuclear war, or, you know, the whole world implodes, I said the only things that are gonna survive are gonna be hobos and Amish, because they're the only you know, people that can really survive. The Amish can do anything from, you know, farm fields to raise barns to you name it, they can do it. And hobos are kind of like that too. I mean, yeah, they're pretty, I mean, they can just find their way, which is what I loved about them. Is I've said in other videos that he wasn't the healthiest guy in the world, and we all knew that, but he never let on to a lot of his health problems. But in real life, he was a lot sicker than what he ever let on to. But I always figured he was, you know, like, somebody sneezes on you, achoo, and then you're like, oh, I'm sick now. But you sneeze on a hobo, they've had that and done it, and their immune system's like, you know, it's superhuman. And I always thought that was kind of funny with him, but he was definitely not superhuman. His health wasn't good the last few years, but what else was funny? Thoughts about him. I don't even know if I should tell. He clogged my toilet up one time. That was kind of funny. And it was no fault of his own. God bless him. The guest bathroom toilet, and that was the first time I ever figured out it wasn't flushing right, and he stayed, and so after he left, I'm like, you know, pulling the bed sheets off and going through the bathroom and like flip up the lid, and it's like, whoa. and I flush, and I'm like, I never said anything to him about it because he probably would have been embarrassed. But in hindsight, and I had a lot of people stay in the house since, and if you just did your business in there and flushed it, it didn't flush. You had to like hold the handle down and then let it run, and then sometimes you'd have to do a second flush. So I'm sure he was like on his way out, and you know, he never meant for that to happen. It's not like he left me a ghost rider. He was probably doing his business on his way out and didn't realize the toilet didn't flush. So after having multiple people here several times complaining about it, I'm like, huh. So I replaced the guts in the toilet, and that didn't fix it. So I ended up just having to replace that entire toilet. But yeah, that was kind of funny. I loved the fact that we watched a bunch of movies together. I watched, I think, Airplane with him at least probably twice, I think, maybe 3 times. He loved that. And I think I told this in my last video. We would just sit there and quote the movie lines back and forth. And then the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I'd never seen that. He was telling me about it. I'm like, dude, we got to watch that. And it was free on YouTube, and we sat here one night and watched it. And goodness, there's so many funny. I haven't even touched my giant list of funny stories yet. These are all, I don't know. I just wanted to talk off the cuff here tonight. Let me see if any of these I can work in here. That one's kind of funny. I remember the first time I met him, I was like, I think he'd been riding for about 3 or 4 days or maybe 5 days. And I didn't have the truck I got now, but I had my other truck. And I'm like, if I pick this guy up, like what's a hobo smell like? And not that I was concerned about it, but you know, I was like, get him in my truck and it's going to smell like a giant armpit in there. And he talked about like I think he called them like the dirty boys or dirty kids or something like that. And I just never, never knew what all that was about when he was talking about it in his videos. And so I get him in the truck, and I think it was in the fall. And the dude didn't, I mean, I know plenty of dudes that stink. He smelled way better than all of them. And the best description of the smell would have been, and this is, I would never tell this story if he was still around, because I wouldn't want him to even think I would be judging him, because I'm really not, and I really wasn't at the time. But he smelled like outside, like the outdoors, like kind of like when it rains on a hot day, like that. And he smelled like creosote from like railroad ties, and that's all I really smelled in the truck when we were driving around a little bit. Like I didn't smell like, I mean, you think of a hobo and you're like, oh man, this dude's been out there for like weeks and it's going to smell like a giant armpit in here. There was none of that. And I always thought that was kind of funny. Just perception of, not that we all don't stink, and I'm not judging anybody that does. I mean, geez, I work out in the yard for an hour and I probably smell worse than he did being out on the rails for 3 or 4 days or whatever he was before he came here. But I always thought that was funny that, I'm like, not that I was concerned about it, but I'm like, what does a hobo smell like? But Shoestring, and he was always very self-conscious about staying clean. And he talked about the dirty kids or smelly kids or whatever these new riders are. He talked about that in a couple of his videos. But yeah, he's like, I don't know anybody that likes to smell bad. I'm like, me neither, buddy. I mean, we all do, but I don't know anybody that likes it. So that was one funny little story. I'll tell one more, and then I'll call her a night. I'll save some of these for a future time. Well, this isn't a story, but I guess it kind of is when one of the times he went up to Alaska, he was wanting to really move there. And I was always hoping he would. That was like when I thought about like what would happen. Like I figured, you can't ride the rails forever. Especially with his health problems and everything. But I always kind of was like, wondered what his next steps were. And, he had his plans of going to Europe and riding over there. He was talking about going to Russia and, riding some of the rails over there. And, and I did see a comment on somebody asked if he ever went to Canada. He'd been there a few times and he got kicked out. And the last time he got kicked out, they said if they ever catch him there again, and it's some Canadian law, and I don't know what the laws are up there, but they said if they caught him up there again, it was like a mandatory, like 3 months in jail or something. So he's like, I'm never going back. And so once he got his passport and stuff, maybe he could have legally gone back at that point, but I don't know how all that stuff works. And I don't know that he did either. And he just didn't want to risk it. But yeah, he had definitely been to Canada a few times. And I think he got kicked out at least twice. And I think it was like a 3 strikes, you're out. Or 3 strikes and you're like in jail for like a significant amount of time, which, yeah. So I saw somebody ask something about that. But yeah, I don't think he had any plans of going back there. And what was I talking about? Oh, his Alaska stuff. Yeah, I always hoped he had wound up in Alaska, and I know it was probably 2 or 3 years ago he had went up there. It was before he moved to the place in Johnson City where he lived at. It was before that, and he was wanting to move out of his old apartments. And he was wanting to get out of there, and he was pretty mobile at that time. Like, he didn't have all his stuff at that point yet. You know, he was just starting to get a little more famous and all that stuff. And he was thinking that was going to be a good time if he was going to move up there, he was going to do it. And he made videos when he was up there. It might have been the video when he was, you know, swimming in the lake, and I think that was the time. But anyways, he was up there, and one of the reasons he was up there was he was looking for a place to live. And like I said, it was when he was just starting to take off on YouTube. I mean, really take off on YouTube. And he had, you know, a reasonable amount of money and stuff at that point where he could have got an apartment up there and been just fine. But he didn't have any credit. I mean, they're like, you have a credit card? And he's like, no. Well, I think he did later on a little bit, or maybe he even did then, but he had, like, his credit was crap, and he was trying to get an apartment up there, and nobody would rent to him because he was, I mean, I think that's a problem in our society is you can't show that you have, like, a previous employer, you know, you have no credit history, you don't have a car, and you're like, yeah, I want to rent your place. I mean, and he wasn't that big on YouTube at that point, which maybe he could have later just gone up there and just been like, hey, I'm on YouTube. I have 200,000 followers, and somebody would have rented to him. But yeah, he couldn't, nobody would rent to him. He looked around at some places up there. And so that's why he went back to Johnson City, and he moved out of that other apartment and moved into the place that he was living at. And he was trying to, you know, he had a, you know, a cell phone bill at that point. He had an electric bill at that point. He had his rent. He said he was trying to build his credit up so he could move up to Alaska. And I believe that eventually, if he was still around, maybe in a year or two, he might have made it up there. And that makes me sad because I know he loved that place. I always hoped that, you know, he would have got like a little cabin, or, you know, rented for a while. And then he saw my, the shed that, like, that I had my motor carts in the back. And he was like, man, if I just had one of these up there on a little plot of land, he's like, I could, I'm like, yeah, that's all you need. You put a little stove in here, and, you know, it wouldn't have cost him much, you know, but he had to get up there and get established a little bit first, and he just couldn't do it. But yeah, I told him if he ever moved up there that I'm like, you're going to have a visitor, because Alaska has always been on my bucket list of places to see. And I know you can do the Alaska cruises and all the trips and all that stuff up there, but I didn't and don't want to see it that way. And I'll probably, if I ever do see it, that'll be the way I'll have to see it. But I wanted to go up there and then have like somebody like him that knew everything without all the tourists and people selling you, you know, t-shirts and all that crap. I want to go up and like experience it like he kind of did, you know. That was the way I wanted to see it, and still do. But anyways, I told him if he ever made it up there, I'm like, you know, I'm coming up to like see us like more than once, and you got to show me around. He's like, oh yeah, that's so yeah, that bums me out that he never made it up there for, you know, his hobo retirement. That would have been a great place for him to retire up there. Anyways, yeah, that's about all I can think of. I've probably been rambling and talking too long, but I definitely have been missing him a lot. And I think the reality of him being gone's kind of set in a little more. And I follow his sister's page, and I think it's called like the Hobo Shoestring dedication page on Facebook. But I have a hard time like reading a lot of it, and I know there's been some like drama on there about his merch guy, I think Jerry, and I don't want to get involved in any of that. And I know he wouldn't either. It just doesn't feel, none of that like people talking about stuff like that makes me feel good about him. Well, not about him, but about the situation, you know. So I'm you know, I'll glance through, and somebody I think it was one of his sisters posted like a really nice like picture of him the other day, and yeah, I like that stuff, but I don't read a lot of the comments. In fact, on the videos I've posted, I try to comment on some of the stuff, but I can't. I start digging too deep, and I don't know. And oh, I know a lot of people are asking if I'm going to make it to Britt, Iowa this summer for his dedication. I would love to do that. Number one, I don't know when it is. I guess I could look it up, but I don't know that I'll be able to make it out. I think it's in August, and I have a vacation planned and sometime in August, and I think I looked kind of when it was, and I thought it might have been. I just, because I had the time off, and I don't know that I'll be able to make it out. I would love to. That would be amazing to see that. And I know his one buddy, and I can't remember his name right now, took some of his ashes and spread them on a train ride. God, that made me so happy to see that. I was like, oh man, she would love that. Anyways, yeah, this is why it's hard for me to make these videos, because I go down kind of a rabbit hole with all my thoughts and stuff about it, and I definitely still miss him, and I know everybody does too. So I make these videos in the hopes that, you know, it helps somebody like smile and be happy about the memory of them. And oh, I was telling somebody this the other day, and I feel terrible for even feeling this way, but I gotta just say it because it's the way I felt at the time. But I used to get annoyed with them a little bit. And I know everybody out there, I'll leave it on this kind of funny note, was like, you know, I know a lot of everybody that was a huge fan of him and stuff, and I feel terrible for even feeling this way, but yeah, he would just like text me at these weird hours, and I kind of mentioned it in another video, but I would get, I would get annoyed with him. I would really get annoyed with him about it. And I never, ever, ever let in on the fact that he was annoying me. But like, he'd send me like 6 texts in a row, and I was in the middle of something. And this is just stuff that everybody, I mean, shame on me for feeling that way. And I felt that way at the time, like, shame on me. Like, here's a friend, like, reaching out, like, sharing with you, and you're annoyed with them. And yeah, I just felt terrible about that. I did, and I still do. In fact, I feel more terrible about it now that he's gone. I wish he would still be here to annoy me. Yeah, so be careful what you what annoys you in life, because I would give anything for him to be annoying me right now. I was trying to leave this on a fun note. I don't want to leave this on a sad, depressing note. I'm trying to think of something that makes me really happy about him. Oh, this makes me really happy. So, I did a video a little over a year ago when he was here. I always felt, and I said this in my last video, I always felt weird, like, putting a camera in his face, and like I just didn't want that to be part of our relationship. Like, me, oh, hey, Shoestring, can I make a video of you? I'm like, we just enjoyed our time together. But he suggested, he was like, why don't you make a video of us talking? And that's the video that I made. That was like 28 minutes of priceless shoestring footage or something like that. And that was his idea. And I'm so glad I made that. And I couldn't watch it after he passed away, but I did about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And somebody in the comments said something, and it's funny because that video, it did okay, but like after he passed away, that video's got like a lot of views, and people comment on it almost every day, and I can't. It's so overwhelming with all these kind of videos that I don't. I'm usually like a post and ghost type thing, and then like a couple days later when I have time, I'll respond or like stuff. But somebody, what was the comment somebody had in there? And this is where this whole story was going to, and now I forgot the punchline to it. Oh goodness, somebody, oh, I remember what it was. Somebody said, it was like 27 minutes in, it was like a minute or two before the end of the video. Somebody said something about me giving them a hug, and they wished that, they were like, I haven't had a hug in a long time. And so I'm like, that comment, I'm like, I gotta watch that video again. And I did. And yeah, I watched that part where I gave him a big hug, and I'm kind of a big huggy type of guy sometimes. And after having that conversation with him, I think I said something like, dude, I got to give you a hug. And I gave him a big hug, and he had a smile on his face. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, it just tore me up. But it was such a nice moment. And I forgot that I even gave him a hug, to be honest. But I have hugged Shoestring, and it was pretty awesome. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. It is really like truly like 28 minutes of priceless video. I mean, at least for me, having him here. I mean, he was here in the house. And anyways, I feel like I'm rambling, but if you've stuck it through this long, God bless you. Because, Yeah, and thanks for watching all my railroad videos. My channel, it started out just me trying to get, oh, that's another funny story. Just started out as me trying to get footage off my camera or off my phone so I had more room for more pictures and videos. So I started putting it on YouTube. And it's funny because that's what Shoestring said, that how he got his channel started. He's like, yeah, because I started running out of room on my phone, and you could put it on YouTube back then and just delete it off your phone. And so he told me that story. I'm like, that's the only reason I have a channel. Like, I just wanted this crap off my phone, and I didn't want to delete it because I'm kind of a huge history buff. I love trains. Don't get me wrong, but I'm more of a history buff. Like a lot of my channel is, 50 years from now, when I'm gone, somebody will watch one of my videos on YouTube, and it'll be, the train going around the corner there in Medina, and be like, it's a bike path now. And that's my whole point, is I just want to kind of preserve history, because trains are cool, but I do like the history aspect of all of it. And maybe 50 years from now the trains will still be through Medina, but maybe in 2 years they won't. I have no idea. But that's one of my main reasons for making videos, is I love the history aspect of it. And 10 years down the road, it'll be cool to look back on them. But if it's a train, a plane, a car, trains, and automobiles, anything with a motor or a big piece of equipment, that's what I love. I love all that stuff. I could sit there and watch it all day. So anyways, that's what my channel's all about. If you like it, that's great. If it's not for you, that's cool too. I get it. Just basically everything that I find fun and interesting in life, and that I'm like, oh, I should make a video. Like, oh, that looks cool. Like, I want to, other people to experience this. That's what my videos are all about. There's no real theme, although it's mostly railroad stuff, but that's only because I walk every day, and I'm around the trains, and I'm like, oh, there's a train going by. Ooh, get my camera out. That's 90% of my train videos are just that. I'm not out looking for them, although I do once in a while. But anyways, all right, everybody. Hopefully I haven't bored you to death, and thanks for watching.